I'm sorry to talk about the injuries. Can you just any of these boys likely to be playing then? Gareth Davis, Ken Owens.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit of wait and see really on quite a few of those, Andy. So we haven't really, we're not able to give too much really, only because we don't know enough at the moment on quite a few of those players.
Right.
Liam, for example, took a bump to the head and he goes through a process, Cogsport process. So we've got to stick to the
protocols.
To the protocols on that. But some of the others are players that have had bumps the last couple of weeks and are trying to come back to fitness. And again, we'll know more probably at the end of today more than anything because we'll train this afternoon.
Right. I understand Prieston's walking around, is he? So
he's in a boot now, yeah. So it's good. I think they obviously in try and encourage the healing and rehab process much quicker than they did a few years back. It'd be good for him over the next couple of weeks to get mobile again and be able to come in and hopefully look at some things from our end. Give us a bit of.
There's no sort of news on when he might be fit.
No,
play by ear.
I've got no idea really. I mean, there's a 6 month window, I think, isn't there? But that can change probably a month or two either side. I would have thought sometimes it's all about the individual really and how they end up reacting to when the cast and the boot comes off and they start doing the rehab. So very difficult to look too far ahead with that.
Yeah. That Boxing Day match and all. Looking back on that now, what's your thoughts on it?
Hugely disappointed in a number of areas. We lost out in the scrum in particular and early on in the game, and that set the tone really. We didn't get into our game and probably allowed them in particular to set the tone, and that continued. So there was a fair bit of frustration post game and for a few days after, and I suppose not having a game this weekend gave us a chance to reflect a little bit on some of the performances, both as individuals and team, and simply wasn't good enough to beat a good Ospreys team. They're a good side and they're very effective at what they do, and we let ourselves down and a lot of our supporters as well in that performance, and that's as much that's disappointing from that end as much as anything.
How do you reflect on the sendings off, Simon?
There was quite a bit going on in the game which didn't necessarily get picked up. There was an incident where the referee spoke to the captains and spoke about foul play, and he made a call on Rob's, which was his decision, but there were other instances after his talk to the captains from both sides that potentially could have merited the same card, but they didn't. So it's just that consistency we asked for, and I've had a chance to meet with Nigel Whitehouse post game a couple of days afterwards, and had a decent chat with him. Asked him to go away and
Whitehouse
Nigel Whitehouse, yeah. So he's the head of the referee, and we can't change the result now. But what we don't want to do is let some of those frustrations and some of those inconsistencies happen again, and that's what we need to make sure we get clear here, is that we don't have those things coming into influence the game again, and that's really what he'll look at, and he'll meet with us next week as a group and hopefully give us some feedback on some of the decisions.
What Gareth Owen must have been one of the plus points of the game, or he showed some nice touches.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he's been brilliant to get back to playing really from where he was, and we were pleased when we had the opportunity to sign him. He because of his injuries and because of the timescales, we didn't put him in our European squad because we didn't think he'd get back in time for that. He did actually he would have made probably the first selection. That was his first week back, but obviously hadn't had a lot of rugby.
Yeah.
So, but no, he's been excellent. He's a great footballer, and he's someone that, if he can stay fit, will have a huge part to play here, I think, in the future.
A difficult December, I guess. What do you put that down to?
Well, tough European group. You know, we were disappointed in both Exeter games. We gave them 2 early leads, and we did come back into the second game pretty well and got to 20-all. But it was always going to be a difficult period. We had away game in Exeter, away at the Blues, away at Ospreys, away at Ulster, away at Leinster. So a pretty tough period in terms of the fixtures and how they sat within the season. So we always knew this period was going to be a difficult one, and we had our own targets within the period to come out of the games with certain results and points in particular. And in some cases we've achieved those, in some cases we haven't. But we always knew that it was going to be a really difficult period with so many away games and against such good opposition as well, in derbies and going to Exeter and to Ireland to play games. So it's, you know, I think we haven't been at our best, you know, and I think we all have to accept that, but we have an opportunity to put things right, and you've also got to remember what we've been up against as well.
On the plus side, you're still second, but the teams behind you have sort of concertinaed, haven't they?
Yeah.
And how much of a concern is that, the fact that they're now so close?
It doesn't concern me, because that's out of our control. Our control is where we can put ourselves next week and the week after, and there'll be some sides that we'll play against over the next couple of months that we can take points off and not allow them to do that. But you know, it is always going to be a difficult competition to stay in that top 4, because there's probably 6 or 7 teams now all capable of getting to that position come the end of the season, and we've got to focus on our own job and make sure that we get our own house in order before we worry about what's going on below us or above us. The players are in a good place. Some of them need to be more accurate, and they need to take a bit more responsibility for some of their own performances, and sometimes those haven't been good enough, but we're all in this together, and I think we've got the quality within the squad, and the boys coming back in today have all we're all bouncing really to get the opportunity to play this weekend and put some of the things that went wrong against the Ospreys right.
Talking about how difficult a December you had, doesn't get any easier now, does it, with us?
No, you know, they rested a few players against Munster, and they're in a really good place. You know, they're a very difficult team to play against. I think we played them out here not long ago, and we showed that we can create opportunities against them. But it's one thing creating them, is another thing taking advantage of them. And so, you know, we're fully aware of their strengths, but again, it's a lot of that is down to what we can control in our performance, and I think that's what we'll be focusing on. As much as they've got lots of good things in their game, we will need to make sure that we get the things in our game right this weekend.
Has it been helpful for the boys to have a break, Simon? I mean, there's 2 games in 5 days. Did it come at quite a good time just to be able to have that kind of time to reflect? And they've come back today really strong.
Yeah, I think it's always it's a difficult programme because you go from week to week, reviewing a game, previewing the next game. So there's not, because of the competitions we've got now, there used to be periods in the autumn and the Six Nations where you'd have periods of a week or 2 where you wouldn't have a game, so you wouldn't have to focus on the performance, and you could reflect a little bit on different areas. But that isn't the case anymore. I think last year, I think we had 29 weeks back to back before we had a weekend off. So this has been a good mini break, I suppose, 3 or 4 days, you know, where we haven't been focusing on the next game. Now we've got an opportunity to do that, but hopefully the players have used that time productively.
Simon, you've got some of the most passionate fans in the business, but they're also very critical fans. How do you deal with that?
Critical fans, critical press.
It's easy when things are going right, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth. You got to appreciate that people put their hard-earned money out to come and watch away games, home games, and we are fully appreciative of that, and we need to make sure that our performances show and reflect some of that.